Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Staltare, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last year or so, I've been featuring each fille du roi or king's daughter and getting to know their stories a little bit better. There are over 700 of them. Today, we're on episode 166. We've come a long way. So much to do. But before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. Subscribe, like, and notify. The next three are ways you can make the channel truly grow. Coffee, Etsy, and Patreon all are ways of showing your support for the channel. So let's get started and get to know our fille du roi of this episode. So we have episode 166. Her name, Mathurine. Isn't that a great name? Goard. And she was a viewer request. But when I looked in my files, my best friend, that's her great-grandmother. And then another really, really dear friend who got me into genealogy really deep about 15 years ago. This is also her great-grandmother. So without further ado, let's get to know Mathurine a little bit better. So Mathurine would have been born in 1648 in Paris, France. Her parents' names were Gilles Goard and Catherine Léger. She is from Île-de-France. I've circled it. The region is called Île-de-France, which contains Paris. And inside Paris, part of the 20 arrondissements or circles, she is part of the 6th circle, in which you can find the church that she would have been baptized in, the Church of Saint-Sulpice. And it is found in that 6th arrondissement. It's probably the second largest church in Paris, only slightly smaller than Notre Dame. And it was actually, this current church was actually rebuilt and consecrated in 1646. And it was actually dedicated by the queen at the time, Queen Anne of Austria. She laid the first stone in 1646, and here we have our fille du roi born in 1648. So a lot of history involved in that. The 6th arrondissement of Paris is referred to as Le Sixième, and it's also called Luxembourg because it's the seat of the Senate, and it has a garden, Luxembourg, and it is situated on the rive gauche of the River Seine. It includes world-famous educational institutions, very philosophical kind of place, very educational, very sophisticated. The cafe society. When you think of, the extreme thinkers of Paris during its heyday, Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, François Sagan. These are the people that would hang out in the 6th arrondissement many years, hundreds of years after our fille du roi. But it kind of gives you a sense of, this is the place. And certainly if you're going to make pilgrimages to this site, you know that this is what it's known for. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place in terms of where Paris is. It is one of the most expensive areas at the moment for Paris. So this is where our fille du roi emerges from. Let's see her journey. So she comes to New France, and this is a little bit different because she comes to New France in 1666, and she is found on the census. We believe this is her, Mathurine Goard, who is 19 years old, les filles de la congrégation. So it appears that she wanted or was thinking of becoming a nun. So let's see what happens. So the groom that would eventually choose her and who she would choose, his name was Louis Marier de Sainte-Marie, and he was born in 1634 in the town of Tours in France. His parents were Louis Marier and Marguerite Peignet. It is found in the real middle of Paris, found in the region of Centre-Val-de-Loire, and it is found within that, it is found in the Département Indre-et-Loire. The commune of Tours has about 136,000 inhabitants as of the census of 2018. And the entire metropolitan is about 500,000. So it is a thriving, it's not a small little village at all, and obviously some place that you want to visit. It actually became a part of the Roman Empire during the 1st century, and by the 4th century it was renamed Tours, and its famous amphitheater was built. The church where Louis would have been baptized, Saint Symphorien, dates from the 10th century, and that upper picture, I just loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to visit there. So that is Tours as it is today. Very, very, it's a large city. So Louis would come to New France, as so many did before him, with Le Carignan-Salieres Regiment. He would be part of La Varenne Company, arriving here on August 17, 1665. He would actually work on the construction of Fort Sainte-Thérèse. After his term, he decided to stay. Now, he and Mathurine would actually there wasn't a lot of time between he arrived in 1665, she was already here. They connected the dots, it appears. So he and Mathurine were married May 31st, 1667, in Montreal, and they would start their life together in the city called Ville-Marie. Let's talk a little bit about Montreal. The wonderful city that would become Montreal started off as Ville-Marie by the founder, Paul de Chomedy, Sœur de Maisonneuve, and was essentially a missionary center established in May of 1642. The colony would not thrive, and it was on the verge of extinction when Chomedy decided to return to France to recruit 100 settlers who would become known as Le Grand Recrues. From this small group would evolve the Notre Dame congregation from the Sister Marguerite Bourgeois. When Montreal was founded, the new colonists were rapidly confronted by a fearsome enemy, the Iroquois. Unfortunately, there was no regular army in Montreal until 1665, when the Carignan-Salieres began to appear. In the meantime, militias capable of resisting Iroquois attacks were set up. On January 27, 1663, Chomedy de Maisonneuve created the Sainte-Famille Militia to protect Ville-Marie and its inhabitants. It was made up of 139 voluntary colonists divided up into 20 squads. A corporal was elected by the members of each squad. So this helped Montreal actually grow, because before then, the people of Trois-Rivières and of Quebec City were kind of like, who's going to live on that island? Little did they know that the fact that it was an island, that it was surrounded by water, would actually end up being its strength. But that was many years to come. For now, we had to survive, and Montreal and the early inhabitants, particularly Louis-Marie and Mathurine, were part of that story. And in fact, Louis-Marie would end up, even though it only says that he owned, in 1681, it says he has five arpents valeurs, that is according to that. He was constantly buying and selling land. His descendants would go on to become part of the history of Longueuil. He was an early land, he would buy and sell land. So that's kind of what was his stock and trade. He was a businessman. Had several businesses, did very well for himself, according to the contracts that we've seen. And so this is definitely part of the story of this man and of this family, that they are, by and large, entrepreneurial and definitely adventure-seeking. Now, when we look at the 1681 census, we see that Louis-Marie is 47. His wife, Mathurine, our fille du roi, is only 30. So there's 17 years between them, which was not uncommon. Their children by then are Catherine, Antoine, François, Angélique, Marie. They have 1 cow and 5 arpents valeurs, about 3 acres. They would go on to have 11 children. Their firstborn, Michel Sidrac, would marry Marguerite Brousseau and have 4 children, all of whom would make it. Marguerite's mother was Marie-Madeleine Hébert, a fille du roi that we'll be featuring in a future episode. Marie-Catherine would marry Jérôme Lontin and have 5 children, all of whom would make it. Antoine would marry Marie-Madeleine Séguin, but did not have any children before his untimely death at 31. Marie-Madeleine's mother was Jeanne Petit, who we featured in episode 72. Angélique Marie married René Dupuis. Oh, I forgot about François. François would die at age 6. Angélique Marie would marry René Dupuis and have 6 children, all of whom would make it. René's mother was Georgette Richer, who we'll be featuring in a future Filles du Roi episode. Marie would marry François Brossard and have 1 child who survived. François would marry Marguerite Bourbon and have 5 children, all of whom would make it to adulthood. He then would marry Madeleine Surprenant and have 5 children, all of whom would make it. Antoinette would marry Jean Jeanne and have 3 children, all of whom would make it. Marianne would die in infancy. Marguerite would pass away at age 17. Gabrielle Marie would die at age 4. Louis would pass away in December of 1702 at the age of 68. He and Mathurine would have been married 35 years. Mathurine herself would go on to live another 18 years but did not remarry, and she died on December 8th, 1720 at the age of 72, a remarkable feat for a woman of that time. And they would go on to have 107 descendants as of 1729. Very, very good. Let's talk a little bit about the resources I used to prepare these episodes. La Société des Filles du Roi is an amazing society of which I am a member. I'm also the membership chairperson. And La Société des Filles du Roi has existed since 1994, so it's going on 30 years. Really paying homage to the soldiers and the Carignan Regiment soldiers and Les Filles du Roi. And if you would like to join, certainly we have a genealogy committee headed by a fantastic genealogist who can help guide you through the process. It's a very nice thing to do for you and your descendants. We have as well, and even if you don't become a member, there's lots of resources on the website, so check it out. We have the Quebec Genealogical E-Society, which is a more recent addition to the Genealogical Society, but I love it. I think they are doing phenomenal work. We have Nos Origines, which is a free site, which is kind of a collaborative think tank, I think, and Généalogie Québec, which is a paying website, Ancestry, it's like Ancestry.com for French Canadians, and every month I'm grateful for it, even when I'm paying it, and I'm so grateful. We have Migration, and we have the Facebook, Filles du Roi Descendants. So have a look at those resources and see which ones, if not all of them, can help you in your research. And with this, we end episode 166. Mathurine was a fascinating person because she came from the city of Paris and then helped found the city of Montreal. So she was one of the early inhabitants, was definitely someone who, along with her husband, was kind of a mover shaker, and they certainly were very, very important in the establishment of not only Montreal, but also of Longueuil and the surrounding areas. So we are so grateful that she came to our shores and that she contributed and she sacrificed. And that she ended up being able to live a fairly long life and have many descendants, 107 as of 1729. So, thank you for your contribution, and we bless your memory. And with that, I say au revoir until episode 167.